Module 2, Air Pollution. Under this title, we'll be studying the primary and secondary types of pollutants and also the causes and effects of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon monoxide. What is air? We all know that air is a precious resource and without which we cannot survive. So, this air supplies us with oxygen, which is very essential for our bodies to live. Right. Now you can see the composition of air here. The maximum portion, that is nearly 78 percentage, contributes nitrogen, and 21 percentage of air contributes oxygen. Around 0.9 percentage contributes argon, and some other gases which contribute 0.1 percentage of the whole composition are carbon dioxide, ozone, hydrogen, neon, helium, methane, krypton, nitrogen oxide, etc. Now coming to air pollution. What is air pollution? It is the introduction of particulates, biological molecules, or other harmful materials into Earth's atmosphere, causing diseases, even death to humans, damage to other living organisms like animals and food crops, or the natural or built environment. So these contaminants include gases as well as particulate matters. Gases include sulfur dioxide, nitrogen, carbon monoxide, etc. And particulate matter is smoke, dust, aerosols, fumes, etc. So this air pollution may come from anthropogenic as well as natural sources. And one of the main example for air pollution is fossil fuel power stations. Now moving on to the sources of air pollution. Now, the first classification is based on the types of sources, that is natural and anthropogenic. So, these natural sources of air pollution are volcanic eruptions releasing poisonous gas such as SO2, H2S, then carbon monoxide, etc. Then, other examples are forest fires, natural organic and inorganic decays like vegetable decay, then pollen grains of flowers, soil debris. All these are examples of natural pollutants. So, all these are produced naturally and released in the air, making it injurious to health. Okay, then second one is anthropogenic or man-made. The increase in population, deforestation, burning of fossil fuels, then emissions from vehicles, industrialization, rapid industrialization, agricultural activities, all these are man-made sources of air pollution. For example, industrial release like sulfur dioxide, SO2 gas, then HCl gas, H2S gas, along with some dust, fumes, etc. Then you can also see automobiles release the hazardous pollutants as byproducts when combustion of fossil fuels are done. Then even the modern agricultural technologies like spraying of pesticides, it releases the air pollutants like hydrocarbons, chlorinated hydrocarbons, then arsenic, lead, etc. Next classification is based on the number and spatial distribution. So here you can see point sources, which can be a large source which includes industrial processing, power plants, etc. Then second one is area source, that is comparatively a smaller source. For example, it affects a particular area like residential area or industrial area, then commercial area, etc. And third one is line source. So it occurs along a definite route, for example, highway vehicles, railroad vehicles, etc. And the third classification is based on the types of emission. So it is classified into two, particulate and gaseous. Particulates are otherwise known as aerosols, which includes dust, smoke, then fly ash, which is solid, then mist, spray, etc. It can also include pollen grains, then bacteria, virus. All these are included in particulate type of or aerosol type of emissions. Then second one is gaseous. It includes carbon monoxide, then nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, which is inorganic, then methane, organic methane, etc. So these are the main classification of air pollution. Now moving on to the types of air pollutants. There are basically two types of air pollutants. One is primary air pollutant and the second one is secondary air pollutant. So primary air pollutants are emitted directly into the atmosphere, and they are found in a form in which they are exactly emitted. For example, sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides, HC. All these are examples of primary pollutants. Now coming to secondary pollutants, they are derived from this primary pollutants by certain chemical or photochemical reactions in the atmosphere. For example, ozone, then sulfuric and nitric acids. All these are examples of secondary pollutants. Now we can also see some examples in this picture for primary and secondary pollutants. Now coming to the next title, criteria air pollutants. We know that air pollution contributes to a wide variety of adverse health effects. So, this criteria air contaminants or criteria air pollutants are a set of air pollutants that causes serious health hazards. And these pollutants are typically emitted from many sources like industrial sources, mining, transportation, electricity generation. All these are the sources of criteria air pollutants. Now you can see six criteria air contaminants, which are ozone, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, lead, and particulates. So these six criteria air contaminants were the first set of pollutants recognized by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Now, out of these six criteria air pollutants, we'll be studying in detail on carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxides. Now, let's see one by one. First one is sulfur dioxide. So, sulfur dioxide, it belongs to the family of gases called sulfur oxides, and it is formed when fuel that contains sulfur, mainly coal or oil, is burnt. And sulfur dioxide is also formed during metal smelting, then oil refining, and other industrial process. Now, the sources of sulfur dioxide. As I said earlier, sulfur dioxide is a gas primarily emitted from fossil fuel combustion at power plants and other industrial facilities, as well as fuel combustion in mobile sources such as ships, locomotives, and other equipments. Now, health effects. The major health concerns associated with exposure to high concentration of sulfur dioxide includes adverse effects on breathing, respiratory illness. Then, if the person is having cardiovascular diseases, it will get aggravated. Then, even small children, the elderly people, and also people who are already having asthma or cardiovascular disease, or if they have any chronic lung disease like bronchitis. Okay, so all these persons will be getting affected very badly. Then, environmental effects. So the sulfur dioxide, it is a primary contributor to acid rain, which causes acidification of soils, lakes, and streams, and it also causes damage to buildings, crops, trees, etc. And in addition to this, sulfur compounds also causes regional haze. And the second one is nitrogen dioxide. So it is one chemical in a class of seven highly reactive gases called the nitrogen oxides. It also plays a major role in the formation of ozone. Okay, now coming to the sources, this gases form when fuel is burned at higher temperatures, principally from motor vehicle exhaust and stationary fuel combustion, such as electric utilities and industrial boilers. And the health effects, exposure to high levels of NO2 can irritate the lungs and lower resistance to respiratory infections such as influenza. The effects of short-term exposure can also lead to changes in lung functions in adults. And in children, it can cause acute respiratory illness also. Now, environmental effects. NO2 can contribute to acid rain, regional haze, and also water quality problems. And one of the main components in the formation of ozone is nitrogen dioxide, and it also contributes to fish kills and also algae blooms in waterways, especially in reservoirs, lakes, streams, etc. And the third one is carbon monoxide. We know well that CO, carbon monoxide, it is a colorless and odorless gas that is formed during incomplete or inefficient combustion of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels like natural gas, it can be coal or gasoline, etc. And coming to the sources of carbon monoxide is a component of motor vehicle exhaust, which is actually the biggest source of carbon monoxide emissions in the ambient air. Then other sources of CO emissions include industrial process. Industrial processes includes metal processing, chemical manufacturing, then fuel combustion, then wildfires, open burning, burning in fireplaces. All these are examples of industrial process. Now, health effects of carbon monoxide. It enters the bloodstream through the lungs and reduces oxygen delivery to the body's organs and tissues. So, those that suffer from cardiovascular disease may experience health effects at very low concentrations of CO exposure, and at much higher levels of exposure of carbon monoxide, that is over 10 times the standard limit. CO can be very poisonous and it can be deadly. It can also cause visual impairment, reduced work capacity, reduced manual working capacity, poor learning ability, etc. Then the environmental effects includes in the environment, this carbon monoxide contributes to the contribution of ground level ozone. Okay.